Have you ever wondered why so many beautiful women remain single? Isn't beauty supposed to be a magnet for love? And yet many of them, it seems, go through life alone, admired from afar, but rarely truly understood. It sounds like a paradox, doesn't it? Carl Jung, one of the greatest thinkers of analytical psychology, gives us the key to understanding this mystery. In his view, our unconscious psyche is shaped by deep patterns, called archetypes, which influence not only how we perceive others, but also how we interact with them. And beauty, surprisingly, can become an invisible barrier, not because it repels potential partners, but because it triggers projections, insecurities, and illusions that hinder true connection. What happens when a beautiful woman enters a room? She doesn't need to say anything. All eyes turn to her, guesses and assumptions begin. Some see her as an unattainable goddess, others as a trophy to be conquered. But how many people truly see who she is inside? Jung said that what we resist continues to exist. Often, a beautiful woman resists this idealization because she feels that her true essence is being ignored. Even in the company of people, she may feel alone. But is the problem within herself or in how society perceives her? Beauty has always been considered one of the greatest attributes a person can have. Since ancient times, sculptures, paintings, and poetry have praised the beautiful woman as an icon of desire and inspiration. But can that same beauty become a burden? Jung teaches us that archetypes are universal images and patterns living in the collective unconscious, shaping our perception of the world and those around us. And when we talk about beautiful women, a powerful archetype comes to the forefront. The muse, unattainable, divine, unreal. This explains why many incredibly attractive women face difficulties in building lasting relationships, not because they lack admirers. In fact, they are often surrounded by gazes and intentions, but because they are often perceived as ideals rather than real people. Many men project their own fears and insecurities onto them, thinking they must be good enough to get close. Others see them as a trophy, someone to conquer in order to prove their own worth. In both cases, relationships start already distorted, based more on image than essence. And there's another factor: judgment. If a beautiful woman is single, immediate assumptions arise. She must be too demanding, must have a complex character, she wants only a wealthy partner. But how often does anyone stop to think that perhaps she simply hasn't found a genuine connection? Or that behind her beauty lies a person with fears, doubts, and desires, just like anyone else? Jung said that vision becomes clear only when we look inside ourselves. And perhaps the greatest problem is not the woman's beauty itself, but how others perceive her. Many beautiful women carry frustration because they are desired but not understood. They want to be loved, not for how they look, but for who they really are. Jung believed that we all carry universal patterns of thinking and behavior called archetypes. These archetypes are rooted in the collective unconscious and affect how we relate to the world. In relationships, two archetypes play a fundamental role: anima and animus. Anima represents unconscious femininity in men, while animus symbolizes unconscious masculinity in women. This dynamic can explain why so many beautiful women struggle with love. Imagine the situation. A man meets an incredibly attractive woman. Before he even exchanges a word with her, his mind is already working at full speed. He sees in her not just a person, but a reflection of his own desires and insecurities. If he feels inadequate in some way, he may project onto her the thought that she will never look at someone like him. If he sees her as a symbol of perfection, he may place her on an emotionally inaccessible pedestal, destroying any chance of a true connection. This phenomenon, known as psychological projection, is one of the greatest challenges in modern relationships. On the other hand, many beautiful women also carry their own internal projections. If from an early age they were praised only for their looks, they might develop the belief that the love they receive will always be superficial. This can lead them to maintain emotional barriers, choose partners who reinforce these beliefs, and even completely close themselves off to love. After all, if others see only the shell, what's the point of opening up? Jung teaches us that to overcome these projections, self-awareness is necessary. What we don't face in ourselves, we meet as fate, he said. In other words, as long as men and women remain in their illusions about each other, they will repeat patterns of disappointing relationships. And a beautiful woman, perceived as an idealized archetype, will continue to remain on a pedestal that few dare to climb. And those who do often aren't ready to deal with her true complexity. So the question is not just why these women are single, but why human relationships, in general, are still so marked by projections and unrealistic expectations. In the next part, we will explore how self-awareness can be the key to breaking this cycle and building genuine connections. Jung said, "He who looks outside dreams. He who looks inside awakens." This simple sentence contains deep wisdom. Most people spend their lives searching for answers in others, in external circumstances, in social patterns. But few turn inward. And when we talk about beautiful women and their problems in relationships, this reflection becomes even more necessary. As long as she is perceived only as an ideal, an archetype with other people's projections, her path to love beyond the surface will be difficult. But the real question is, how to break out of this cycle? The first step is self-awareness. Jung believed that each of us carries a hidden part of the psyche, which he called the shadow. This shadow consists of everything we ignore or pretend not to see in ourselves. Many beautiful women, accustomed to being valued for their appearance, may unconsciously believe that their worth is entirely tied to their aesthetics. Others, realizing they are constantly idealized, build emotional barriers to avoid disappointments. But do they really know themselves beyond the image they project to the world? The answer to this question may be painful but liberating. When a beautiful woman realizes that she doesn't have to live up to expectations, that she can be valued not only for what's on the outside, but also for what's inside, she stops accepting superficial relationships, and this becomes the true turning point. From this moment on, she stops being a prisoner of others' views and starts connecting with those who are truly ready to see her for who she is. But here comes a new challenge. Not everyone is ready for such depth. Many still live in a world of projections, trapped in their own shadows and illusions. And that's why the path to self-awareness can be lonely, not because there's a lack of love in the world, but because few are ready to love authentically. However, those who follow this path discover something amazing. Loneliness doesn't necessarily have to be perceived as a burden. It can be a period of growth and inner strengthening. When Jung said that our vision becomes clear only when we look deep into our hearts, he reminded us that the answers we seek outside have always been inside us. The beautiful woman who understands this stops seeking external validation and starts choosing her relationships with greater awareness. By doing so, she inevitably pushes away those who are only interested in the image, but opens up space for those who truly want to know her in all her fullness. And this is the real revolution. When beauty stops being a burden and becomes only a reflection of what's inside, now that we understand this process, a fundamental question arises. Are we ready to see beyond appearances? If there's one thing that Jung teaches us, it's that relationships are more than just a meeting of two people. They are mirrors of our own psyche. Perhaps this is the greatest challenge for a beautiful woman in relationships. She is not perceived as a whole person, but only as a reflection of others' projections. And as long as this continues, true connection becomes almost impossible. Many men, unaware of this, see a beautiful woman as a symbol, not as a person. For some, she represents the ultimate achievement, a trophy confirming their sense of self-worth. For others, she is an unattainable, distant presence, evoking insecurity and fear of failure. But in both cases, the problem's the same. There's no real connection, only a game of illusions. And this is the source of suffering. Jung believed that for relationships to be authentic, they must be based on individuation, a concept describing the process of integrating all parts of our being. In other words, relationships can only evolve when both parties know and accept themselves fully, without relying on the other person to fill their inner voids. However, what we often see is something completely opposite. People seek in others what they lack, projecting their insecurities and frustrations onto them. Where does this leave the beautiful woman? Often, in solitude, not because she wants to be alone, but because it's hard to find real connection in a world of projections and illusions. Finding someone who sees you not just as a symbol, that's the real dilemma. When beauty attracts superficiality, while the soul seeks depth, painful contradictions arise. How many women experience frustration realizing that the relationships they attract are based on appearance, not essence? And how many men feel insecure before someone who, in their perception, is above them? The solution to this problem lies not in beauty itself, but in awareness. When a man frees himself from his projections, he begins to see the woman as a whole person, not as an ideal. Similarly, when a woman stops clinging to the need for external validation, she begins to seek genuine connections, not just superficial relationships. But here's the key point. Not everyone is ready for such level of awareness. That's why many beautiful women prefer solitude to superficial relationships. Not because they reject love, but because they understand that it only makes sense when it's built on something real. The main question now is not why the beautiful woman is alone, but are we ready to see and accept another person as they truly are? A beautiful woman often faces invisible challenges in relationships, not because of a lack of love or admirers, but because she is often seen as a projected ideal, not as a whole person. Carl Jung gives us a powerful answer: the awareness of our shadows. He believed that everything we ignore or suppress in ourselves eventually unconsciously manifests in our relationships. In other words, if a woman has been taught all her life that her beauty is her main virtue, she may unconsciously believe that this is her only worth. Thus, unknowingly, she may attract partners who reinforce this belief, men who desire her but don't truly know her. The first step to breaking this cycle is the dispelling of illusions. For a beautiful woman, this means asking herself, who am I beyond my appearance? What do I truly want from relationships? For men, the reflection: do I really see this woman as a person? Or am I just projecting my own desires and insecurities onto her? When we start to see beyond projections, relationships change. The beautiful woman stops accepting superficial relationships and starts seeking someone who truly sees her for who she is. Men stop being paralyzed by her appearance and begin to value true connection. And Jung said, the hardest journey is the one inward. And this journey is essential for anyone who wishes to build genuine relationships. It requires us to confront our shadows, our illusions, and accept the other person as they are, not as we wish to see them. In the end, a beautiful woman is not alone because she wants to be, and not because there is something wrong with her. Often she is alone because she does not accept anything less than real love. And that can be one of the toughest decisions, but also one of the most liberating. If we strive for genuine relationships, we must begin with self-awareness, because real love has nothing to do with beauty, but everything with awareness.